Welcome back to Feedback Loop. I'm Jeremy.
I'm Joey. That's me. I'm that guy.
He's that guy. We talk about music. This week, we're talking about Time Without Consequence, which is an album by Alexi Murdoch. We listened to this album over the past week. Neither of us were familiar with this. Up to this point, one of us has been familiar with it, so we can kind of ease into doing this, I guess, and I guess share more than discover together. So that one of us was discovering, but one of us was kind of rehashing. This one, not the case. Neither of us have listened to this album, or had listened to this album prior to this week. So we're
I never even heard of this guy.
Me either. Well, I had heard of him before this week, obviously because I put him on our list. I actually discovered him, I say discovered, he came on a discovery playlist that was generated for me in the music service that I use, and I kind of liked it. The song was actually the first track on the album that I heard, and I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. I maybe be interested to check out the rest of this. So I put it on the list that we have to choose from for what albums we're planning on doing or would like to do. But yeah, so that's how that album was chosen. This album was chosen. No previous experience. It kind of had a Jose Gonzalez feel to me, which I'm a fan of Jose Gonzalez, who does some classical.
Never heard of him.
Oh, then we're definitely putting Jose Gonzalez's album on this on the playlist. But that's for another time. The album art for this album is very simple. There's just a white backdrop. It looks like it's a black and white photo of presumably Alexi Murdoch sitting in a chair. You can kind of see some wooden floor behind him, but it's just a black and white photo of him in kind of a dressy shirt. Maybe not a super dressy shirt, but a nice shirt, some pants, just kind of sitting in a chair, staring straight at the camera. There's not a whole lot to...
It's like a nice work shirt, kind of. But,
yeah.
He looks like a man of the earth.
Yeah.
Like a guy you'd see that's, out somewhere who can do things.
Accurate. I feel that way about
I'd ask him
people.
if he knew I'd ask him which way was into town if he was at a mechanic shop outside of town.
Where's the subway at, you know? Oh, it's just down there. Took a left on Broadway, you know. Anyways, not a whole lot going on in the album art. Just a picture of him sitting in a chair. So we're just gonna get right into this. There's 11 tracks on this album, 59 minutes long. It's like an hour long, which is longer than what we've been listening to. Yeah, because normally we've been doing short albums, and I don't think I haven't chosen any albums specifically because it's short to be doing it. It's just kind of how it worked out, I think, and I don't think you've been doing specific choices of short albums, but maybe we just tend to like shorter albums as a whole, so that's what's been...
I'm telling you, shorter albums are better, man.
I never made the correlation, but maybe all of my favorite albums are short albums.
Trim the fat. Keep it under 50 minutes.
Yeah, this is not the case. 11 tracks, 59 minutes, the first of which is called All My Days. This is the song that I heard in my Discovery playlist that made me put it on our list. It's very, good old folksy guitar piece with some lovely strings. And I actually did some research on this. There is a cellist featured on this album, Oliver Krauss. This man has played for so many different bands. He's played for Dave Matthews. He's played for Adele.
What?
He's played for Florence and the Machine. It goes on. There's a long list of people and acts that this guy's played for, and he's playing on this album to kind of give some nice cello backgrounds to a lot of these folksy guitar pieces, which I think is beautiful. I think it's very well done.
Oh, yeah. This was a very nice song. This song, it was, we always talk about, if it's a strong opening song or whatever. This one, it was a good opener simply because it listened to the rest of the album.
Yeah.
I don't know, I picked it up and I was just like, okay, I can get behind this. I like fingerstyle guitar. I'm a very big proponent of that. I play a lot of acoustic guitar. I pretty much don't play electric guitar anymore because I own fingerstyle. So, that's kind of my wheelhouse.
Sure.
To this type of music.
Yeah, it sounds good and it feels good to play. I'm not great at it playing myself, but I respect the hell out of people that do it. But yeah, the song, it's got that kind of, like I said, kind of a classical folksy guitar piece. It reminds me a bit of, again, I don't know if you've played this game, Life is Strange. I'm a big fan of the game, but it uses a lot of alternative and indie music, some of which Jose Gonzalez is used in the soundtrack. But it kind of gives me that feel of very calm, folksy music. So I was kind of hooked from that as well, because Life is Strange is one of my favorite video games. lyrically, the song seemed kind of like he was searching for something inside of himself and not really sure what he was looking for. And he found someone that kind of like pulls him out of this depression. And a line that kind of stuck out to me was he says at some point, even breathing feels all right, implying that
Yeah.
previously he was in such a state that it was just not comfortable to breathe. He got out of it. He found someone to cling to, for better or worse, and it's kind of like a general relationship song. I feel like that's kind of a theme throughout this album, is kind of being alone
Yeah.
or not really being okay with where your life is or how your life is. But this kind of has a positive light to it. Musically, it gets a little like country vibe toward the end when there's like a steel guitar that comes in that I don't hate, but I don't love some
Hmm.
steel guitar. I think it has a place, and I'm not sure if I enjoyed it in this track per se.
That's a place, just not here.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I'm saying. It can get out of my ears.
So the next song, Breathe. Sorry, I just really want to get to this one because it reminds me so much. I talked about like playing acoustic guitar.
Yeah,
This song sounds like what I was listening to. Like this album came out in 2006. This song sounds like what I was listening to on of like YouTube musicians in 2006.
yeah.
Like
Was
just
YouTube a thing
it
in
has a
2006? I feel like YouTube
it
didn't
was
really take off until like
well
2007 or 8.
it was maybe 2007 because like the specific guy I can think of is Chris Rowley, and I'm pretty sure. I guess it would have had to have been 2007 because that's when he uploaded that, like his songs and stuff. But it just like it made me think so hard of that. So like this album more than really any other ones I've listened to recently made me want to like pick up and start playing again.
That's
It was
good.
just a nice feeling.
Yeah. So was that your first experience with guitar? Was kind of seeing it on YouTube and then picking up a guitar and trying to play, or had you had prior experience before then?
I'd had a little bit because I had friends that played like rock bands and stuff, and I mean I'd played electric guitar for a little while at that point,
Gotcha.
maybe like a year or two, but then around that time I kind of switched to acoustic, and I kept playing electric. At a certain point, I would all day just watch people, singer songwriter folk type people, play live, or like people like Andy McKee who do this crazy beatbox. It's kind of like the people that do the beatbox flute, except you like
Yeah.
drum on your guitar while you're playing that type of stuff, and it just like was super. And that's kind of what got me into guitar. So that's like
Hell yeah.
my headspace going into this specific song,
Well,
which
shout
I
out to
really
early
enjoyed.
YouTube musicians and early YouTube in general. It's kind of crazy
Oh
to
yeah,
think that in like 13 years, YouTube has become such a prominent thing. But
it's great.
it's
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 so
great.
great.
It's good for creators. It's good for consumers. It's a solid platform.
Might be
Not a
might be
sponsor.
good for us. Who
Might be good for
knows?
us. We'll
Who
see.
knows?
I don't know if podcasts do super well on YouTube without video. But if you're listening to us on YouTube, thanks. We appreciate it. We're also in a lot of other places, so maybe check us out there as well. Back to the song though, "Breathe." It's a pretty optimistic, if a bit cynical song that's
Yeah.
kind of like keeping hope despite nothing going right. There's like a verse that I've quoted, and it says, "And all the suffering that you've witnessed, and the handprints on the wall, they remind you how it's endless, how endlessly you fall, and the answer that you're seeking for the question that you found drives you further to confusion as you lose your sense of ground." And it's just like it's like being in such a weird space that nothing is making sense to you, but the hook of the song is "Don't forget to breathe." So despite
Yeah.
all of this stuff going wrong or not making sense, you just have to take a moment, breathe, get your bearings, and continue on, despite nothing making sense.
Yeah, like that's generally kind of what I got from this song is that I think this whole album is about a fight with depression or maybe about a relationship in which somebody has depression and like problems that can come from that.
Yeah,
But this song I got, yeah, like how you said the chorus is don't forget to just breathe. Like that kind of it's I feel like it's starting out on a good note to get yourself through it. It's still pretty positive
yeah, it's an
about like
optimistic
okay, I can
song.
get through this. even whenever things are bad. Like just stay grounded, just breathe.
Yeah, absolutely. And I agree. I think that that is a big theme on the album is trying to deal with it and continue life through depression. But we can get to that as it comes up in the album as
Yeah.
well. The third track on the album is called Home, and boy, what a trip is this song. I really enjoyed it. It caught me off guard. The song starts off with some like simple acoustic guitar, which is what you would expect, but over the course of the song, it builds into this like psychedelic journey kind of a thing, with some like Middle Eastern drums and some other percussive instruments and sounds, and there's just like a building distortion and stuff. Like it goes wild. It kind of like it reminds me a bit of like Santana in some ways, where it just gets
Oh
like
man.
it gets very psychedelic musically.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And I mean, I feel like that's probably by design because the lyrics on this song, it's he's repeating the same lines.
Yeah.
Like he has a block of repeating the same line for a little while and then repeating another line and then repeating another line. And then it ends up on like a
He sings
he
"Row Your
just row,
Boat."
row, row your boat.
Yeah,
And I'm
which
just
I thought was
what? But
strange.
yeah, it is strange, but it kinda ties in because the three lines that he says have to do with you're searching for a place to call home. You go walk around, and then maybe you realize you were there all along.
Yeah,
Maybe you realize you were already home. I think maybe you realize that you already were. I think is the lyric. But either way, I think it has to do with trying to search for something on the outside, realize that what you need is on the inside.
yeah. It's
Like,
kind of like a good contrast to the first track, where it seemed like he was looking for something on the inside and found something on the outside in another person. So it's
yeah,
kind of an interesting flip of the coin, I guess, to look at both sides of potential depression havers,
yeah,
maybe.
yeah,
I don't know. I
yeah.
was
I
not
don't know.
expecting this track at all. It
Oh
caught me
yeah,
off guard.
definitely. And especially with it being 6 minutes long, I didn't know if it was because I will admit, whenever I first started listening to this album, I looked at and I was like, "There's 11, wait, 12 tracks, either 11 or 12
There's
tracks,"
11.
and 11, and it ended up being an hour. I was like, "Man, these are gonna be some long tracks." Like,
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm gonna be able to stay in the groove for the whole time. But no,
Yeah.
this song definitely did it.
For sure. I think it's a groovy song in general, and I like it. I don't think it's my favorite track, but it's the most notable track I think, in that it like I went into this expecting a folk album and got something a little bit more than folk, which I'm okay with.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Well, speaking of favorite songs, the next track, "A Song for You," is my favorite song on the album.
It's a pretty
I
sad song, in my opinion.
it it is, but I mean, I guess that fits with my whole sad boy thing
Yeah.
going on.
Hashtag sad boys.
I liked it before I even paid attention to the lyrics.
Yeah.
The way it starts off, it just I don't know the guitar line that comes in, and then kind of the way that the music and the beat and the verse kind of sounds like it's driving forward, but then in the chorus, it's like the guitar stays the same, the beat changes underneath it, so it kind of gives it
Right.
feel, and it almost feels like halftime or like it's slowed down. Like
Yeah.
the song itself is coming to a halt. So like I just thought that was, but yeah, it's a little bit of a sad song.
Yeah, I think
Like
it sounds like he's trying to support someone that's going through a tough time, but not really knowing how to do that or how to best handle it.
yeah, and that's like earlier whenever I said this album is either about depression or being in a relationship while depressed, like this makes me think he's trying to work on himself. Maybe the other person is also dealing with their own stuff, and like you said, he doesn't know how to handle it because he's also trying to work on his life, and it's
Yeah.
just an unfortunate situation where it's like there's two broken people not knowing what to do about each other.
Yeah, it's pretty relatable to a former part of my life. I kind of tied this back to me dealing with, or rather, not really dealing with, my mom dying. She
Mm-hmm.
died in 2007. I was 14. I was about to turn 15. But he talks in the song about like hiding from your pain and like acting like everything is fine, even though it's pretty clear that you're like fighting back tears, or that you're struggling. with stuff.
Yeah.
And he mentions not being able to talk about it for fear of people not understanding per se, or wanting to like disappear completely like into the night, and then saying that you're standing still and not really progressing, but you are. It kind of hit home because I definitely had that. There was a lot of hiding my pain. I kept up appearances that nothing was fine, and most of that was easily done because I ended up pushing a lot of it away and down and not dwelling on it. But that doesn't work. Pro tip for life: you can't do that for an extended amount of time. But yeah,
Especially with something so big, like
yeah. I mean,
maybe
I was
maybe
young.
small things.
Yeah, that's fair. I was young. Your parent dying is a big deal, regardless of how old you are.
Yeah.
But it kind of like you feel like you're standing still and not really doing anything, and you're hiding things, but you're going through it, whether you're actively dealing with it or not. You're getting further in your life. It's a big theme in this album, I think, is time. Time is
Yeah.
passing with or without you.
Yeah.
So it's happening. You're progressing. You're dealing with guilt by not dealing with it, I guess, which is a weird way, or maybe not guilt, but like whatever it is you're dealing with. But yeah, it kind of it hit home. This is not my favorite
Yeah.
track on the album, even though it is super relatable to me.
hmm
Because I guess I'm not in that space anymore. It just kind of it brought back memories of being in that space, which I thought was neat.
Yeah. Always good to have a song that takes you back to, oh, I mean, I guess it's not great to have that
No,
specific time in your life brought
I
up,
mean, it
but
is. It's part of who I am. I'm not
yeah.
afraid of it or ashamed of it. It's good to like think back and be reflective of that. Like I can sit here and say that I know I didn't handle it well, and
Yeah.
it's helped me to maybe be prepared for the next time something like that happens. Hopefully, it doesn't happen soon.
Yeah.
But we're
Yeah.
living in a
Hopefully.
fucked up time right now. I mean, we're
Yeah.
we're
You
recording
don't know, man.
this during a pandemic, which doesn't
Yeah.
happen often. So
It's never happened to me before. I've never been through.
exactly. I mean, we kind of had like H1N1 back in the day, but that wasn't a big deal as this
We
coronavirus
were
is proving to
we
be.
were at school making jokes about it, so I mean,
Right.
I
Yeah.
don't think it was too
It,
huge of a
it
thing.
wasn't that severe. Anyways, the next track, track number 5, "Dream About Flying." It's a guitar has a guitar driven, very kind of bluesy sounding
hmm
intro to it. Again, the song seemed to me about kind of being depressed and not wanting to work, even though you have a whole lot of work to do, whether that's like actual like career work or like housework or personal work. This is the first time I think the theme of time really hits in a more pronounced way. The album title is
hmm
called "Time Without Consequence," which kind of makes sense in hindsight. But he kind of reminisces about falling as a kid and learning that he can bleed, which makes him very aware that he and everyone he knows will die, which is a
Yeah.
scary thing. So I
hmm
think going forward, I kind of had the shade over my eyes of or context, I guess, of him being afraid of death or being afraid of time passing, which comes up in a couple of the tracks on the album.
Yeah, I definitely think time. I mean, yeah, like you said, it's called Time Without Consequence. Like, I don't know if that's a play because all time has consequence no matter what, or if he's talking about, well, when he's awake, it's like he's drowning, but
Yeah,
when he's asleep, he's dreaming of flying, and maybe time that you actually don't have is in your dream. Every time
that's
doesn't
true.
really mean anything.
Dreaming comes up a couple times throughout this album as well. So I
Yeah.
think that's a very valid point to make. And it kind of like it kind of sinks it back in. He dreams about flying, and then the song ends that he when he wakes up he cries, or that he's crying when he wakes
hmm
up, because it's such a disconnect, I guess, that he's aware of when he's dreaming and it's the best time of his life, and then he kind of comes back to reality and he's still depressed.
But that's how it works. I mean,
Yeah,
not like that's the thing. Like he talks about it in a very real way. It's like
absolutely.
you just want to be asleep. So why would you not?
Yeah, that's true. Go get help if you're depressed, by the way.
Yeah,
I feel like we've said that in past podcasts, but do it.
we have, and I feel like maybe
Maybe we need to
Maybe it's
stop
because
listening to
of the
depressing
albums.
albums. Yeah.
Maybe we do. Maybe we got a comment, a Facebook post saying happy songs are valid.
Yeah.
So maybe we'll take that to heart and start listening to happy music.
Yeah. Maybe. I don't know if it's
A little
likely,
bit.
but maybe.
Yeah. It's. I mean, I don't think I've listened to a happy album in forever. So
I think I put some happy albums, so maybe not in this coming week because we've already picked out an album, but the week after maybe we can get into some happier music, perhaps.
well, if you want to hear happier music, you'll have to wait. Segue. The
Segue.
next song is called "Wait."
It is track
I
six.
had to. I had to. Okay, so this song, I really like this song. Not necessarily because of the song itself, but because it reminds me of a different artist. I don't know if you know Steven Wilson
Nope.
or Porcupine Tree, the
I've
band.
heard of Porcupine Tree.
Just the vocal melody in this song reminds me of something that I would hear him. So it just immediately made me like this song
Yeah.
more than I would.
Yeah.
But it
It.
seems like it's just a song wanting to know that somebody's going to be there for you, or wanting somebody to, I guess, wait for you. He talks about waiting for me when I stumble.
Yeah.
So if
It
you're
seems
like,
like he at this point he feels like he's finally on a path to happiness or on a
mm,
path to being better, but still worrying that he won't be able to keep it up or that he won't be able to stick with it and see it through. So he's kind of asking maybe his partner that, hey, if I fuck up because I'm not sure that this is going to work out, I want you to wait for me. I want to know that you're still there despite what I'm presuming is going to be me fucking this up because I just can't
yeah,
be happy or whatever. It's interesting that you called out the vocals on this track because towards the end of this track, it kind of got grating on me because he just repeats "wait for me" over and over again,
yeah,
and it overstayed its welcome a little bit. I think he repeated it a little bit too much, and it just kind of like got annoying towards the end of the track for me.
understandable. There's a few parts in this album that I feel like went on
Yeah,
just
that's he
so,
has a tendency to repeat lyrics ad nauseum sometimes, and it's not a horrible thing, but I think I would enjoy it more if he didn't do it as often as he did.
almost like Home, where he says the same lines
Yeah.
over and over again.
Or in the next song, "Love You More." It's the seventh track. Boom, we're killing these segues
Yeah.
today.
Oh,
It's pretty straightforward lyrically. He kind of just says that he loves you more than love you more than anyone, love you more than
mhm.
anyone, love you more in time to come, love you more. That's like all of the lyrics in the song.
Yeah,
So it seems pretty straightforward that he's talking about someone he's in love with and he's wanting to continue growing that love.
yeah. I kind of thought this song, like, don't get me wrong, it actually, like, starting off, it's got funk in there. Like,
Yeah,
it's kind of like a groovy guitar line, but like the song itself, I feel like didn't really go anywhere, I guess.
I agree.
But
I
I,
didn't really get this track.
yeah, it's so like, but I mean, it was only like what 2 minutes and 45 seconds long. So I mean, at least it's not one of the super songs on the album.
That's
But yeah,
true.
it kind of just was there.
And I think it being such a short song on an album of longer songs, this is the shortest song, and it makes sense because to me, because it was such a simple song and it didn't really like add up the way that the rest of the songs did, it felt kind of like an interlude, and I think it
Yeah,
blends very nicely into the next track. So maybe that's what he was going for. He wanted it to be kind of a shorter, not as important thing, just to kind of flow into the next part of the album.
I could see that because it does kind of have a shift here. The next track, mine, it's this is the song that I think it's. I don't know. We talk about turning points. Like I think this was a turning. He starts to focus more internally because
Yeah,
he's. I mean, the song's called Blue Mind, which right there, like I that's this song firm. This album like had to be about depression. Blue
right.
Mind. That's like it's pretty much just saying depressed,
You're sad.
except you're
Yeah,
not. It's like an artsy way of it. But
right.
it was I don't know. He just near the end of the song, starts talking about remembering for a child, and
Yeah.
don't be afraid of the things you'll find thinking about and to stop your crying. So it kind of made me think that he's in the thick of it right now and he's trying to anchor himself to a better place and to just kind of really give in to his mind is, I guess, and try to embrace it and don't fight it, but like learn from it, I guess.
Yeah, so I got the song, like, to me it seemed like he was trying to remind himself not to dwell too much on the things that are getting him down because again, kind of tying back to the theme, there's not enough time in his life to lose sleep over. He it kind of ties back to Dreaming About Flying, where he seems afraid that he doesn't have enough time to live the life he wants. So it seems like he doesn't want to spend time dwelling on these thoughts, and so like I said, he's kind of in the thick of it. He's accepting that, like, hey, shit's crazy right now. Shit's not going out how I want it to, but I can't focus on this. I can't lock in on this because I don't have enough time to deal with this.
Yeah, like this is definitely a solid song.
The next track, Shine, it's the ninth track. It kind of starts off with some like TV static that turns into some like noise and then stops and the song starts, which I thought was interesting. There's a lot of interesting sound effects and percussive instruments throughout this whole track. I kind of like it. I think when I was listening to this without paying much attention to the lyrics, I think this was the song that made it all click to me musically. And I think lyrically it ties back to Blue Mind and Dream About Flying, uh, with the whole kind of theme of time and what that means for humans. He's been so afraid of dying at this point, it seems like he's been avoiding living life. He calls himself a spirit trying to be human, which could mean that he's accepted that he's dead or going to die, or he's that's just how he feels that he is a live person that hasn't been living actively. So towards the end of the track, it kind of seems like he's ready to get out of this depressive comfort zone and go and do things and try to live life to get out of this.
See, what I got from this song,
Joey's telling me I'm
because
wrong.
this no, I'm just saying I got a little bit of it.
Sure.
So the lyrics on this song are awesome. Like, I mean, kind of sad, I guess, would be a better
Hashtag sad
way,
boys.
but like, so where he's talking, we're talking about the I'm just a spirit trying to be human. I
Yeah.
think this is about that relationship that I alluded to earlier, like was the song for you, where it's talking about two people not knowing how to care for each other. I think this song is that relationship ending, is both of them
Could be.
realize
Yeah.
their relationship, whatever, isn't working unless they're apart. Because it talks about, uh, I mean, it pretty much just up and says that at one point in the song, uh, and it's talking about when they're together, they're fighting. The exact lyric that you were referring to, the whole line was, "Well, I didn't come here for a soul, and I'm tired of watching dust collecting on a wall. I'm a spirit trying to be human." That makes
Yeah.
me think, I don't know, back to people getting their identities tied up in a relationship, which happens a lot whenever there's mental illness or depression, and people get into relationships. It kind of becomes like a drug, getting too involved in it, and it's becoming too much. And I don't know. I
Yeah, I
think this
mean,
song is about.
reflecting back
Mhm.
on that, he says you hold on to yourself. You're afraid that you might get left behind, and so you hide your eyes. You're afraid that the light will make you blind. So maybe that's kind of what he's getting at, is like the other person doesn't want to accept it yet, or
Mhm.
he believes that they know it's over, but they haven't come out and said it, because the next part of that phrase is, "But it's time to shine," which is kind of calling back to the
Yes.
last track, which is called Shine. But yeah, it makes sense that this could be put in the context of a breakup for what it is. Because I mean, in the outro of the song, he says, "Yes, it's time to believe in what you know." I think
Yeah.
that's you're probably more accurate representation of it, but that's not exactly
Well,
what I got on my first pass anyway.
yeah. And like the thing, I think it's more him. I mean, like, I guess it's in the context of a breakup, but I think this song, what I got out of it at least, is him getting through it kind of like he's the one realizing all of this about
Yeah.
whatever situation he's in, and that like, hey, I don't want to be a part of this. Like, I still want to be a person by myself. Like, I want to have identity. I want to be a person, a
Yeah.
singular person. So I kind of think this song, while it is about, I guess, an ending of a relationship, it could even be a relationship, like you said, with a previous version of himself who was completely giving in to this depression. And now
Yeah.
the new him, is coming out of it. But yeah, it's definitely kind of a re himself at
Right.
the, I think.
Yeah, he's accepted that whether it's himself or his old self or this relationship, he's accepted that whatever it is not healthy for him, and he's ready to move on from it.
Well, although the next song, 12,
12. The
this
title is
kind
12.
12, yeah, it's called 12. Yeah. Uh, so this song is like the first half of it is just, I mean, it's like music,
Yeah, it's a
but
mostly instrumental track.
and like you hear a woman on the phone. I guess it's like a voice.
Yeah, it sounds like it's a
She left a
voicemail or
message.
there's some like phone conversation happening. You couldn't really make out what was being said, or at least I couldn't.
The only thing I could make out was that something about somebody taking the cats. I
Well,
think
there
I
you
heard
go.
that in there. Like, which in it sounds weird. Like in my mind, that kind of made me think, oh yeah, that last song was probably about a breakup. Like somebody's taking the cats. Like I don't know, are
Yeah,
they moving out? Is something happening? Like whoever was on the voicemail sounded a little distressed,
yeah,
but I don't. Yeah, like you said, it really couldn't make any of it out.
yeah. It was quiet and it was under the instrumental track for this. About like halfway through though, Alexi starts singing the word "shine" repeatedly, kind of referencing the previous track, I think, and just kind of like
Mm.
breaking him out, perhaps, of dealing with that. I guess in the context of the breakup, he's just like saying it's fine. This is my life. This is the end of the breakup. I got to deal with this, but I more importantly, I need to focus on myself and I need to make myself shine
Yeah,
and let the light in of the world. And the light's harsh, like he said in the last track. Maybe he's been hiding his eyes from the light because he knows that it's gonna burn or that it's gonna be bright, but he's kind of letting that happen anyway because he knows he needs to.
damn, I like that analogy.
It's a good
That's some
one.
good stuff right.
Yeah,
I didn't get that, but you're a genius.
I mean, I'm just tying things together in real time. It's fine. I didn't have that in my notes, but it makes sense. It's a nice break. It's a very chill instrumental track, and it's kind of in a weird place, I think, in the album because this is the penultimate track. This is the 10th of 11
Yeah,
tracks, and it's the sort of chill like sectioning that you would expect towards the middle of an album, or that I would expect towards the middle of an album, but it happens right before the end.
yeah,
But it kind of makes sense in that the 11th track, which is Orange Sky, is kind of a pleasant ending to an otherwise somber album. It's kind of about, it seemed to me at least to be about him taking time to recognize that he loves his family and he misses them, and they've helped him get through a lot that maybe he doesn't get to talk to them about, which I think is
yeah.
important.
I definitely agree with that. Like, I think it was about him realizing all of the things that he's kind of been missing, I guess.
Yeah.
And to a certain point, it almost sounds like it's like he's finding faith, not necessarily like,
Yeah, he uses the
uh,
word salvation. He calls his brother and his sister his salvation. So it's kind of a knee jerk response to say religion. I think in the greater context, he was just saying like, hey, you guys have helped me out, and this is my interpretation. I think it was more of him just saying like, you guys have saved me, like you guys have done
yeah,
so much for me that maybe I haven't given you credit for, that I haven't been able to talk to, or maybe you guys didn't even know you were doing it, but this kind of like an appreciation to them.
definitely. And I don't know, like it may sound weird. There's like random ambient noises in
Yeah,
the back, like certain. It's like he had the microphone, a really high quality microphone, super up close to his guitar. Like you can hear. I
yeah,
mean, whenever somebody's playing an acoustic, you can always hear like little string scrapes or like somebody tapping on the guitar accidentally. But this was like it was almost like they put it there on purpose,
Yeah,
but I enjoyed it.
there's a
It
lot
just
of,
kind
I
of came.
think, intentional noise throughout this album.
Yeah, and like I like stuff like that. I mean,
Yeah,
I
it gives it a
think
real. It kind of makes it makes it real, right? It grounds it
yeah,
in like there's a person playing this song in a recording booth or wherever with a microphone.
definitely does well to create kind of I don't know a universe in this album that you make it look.
Yeah, and I think it
It's
suits
like
folk music in general well.
yeah, definitely painting a very vivid picture as well as you can.
Yeah, agreed. Overall, for this album, I like it. I thought it was a good album. I'm glad that it came up in our thing. I don't know if I'm gonna listen to it a whole lot unless I'm in a specific mood for it. But some of the songs I think will be shuffled in from time to time just because I don't think it's a bad album. I just don't think it's something that I'm gonna put in constant rotation or that I'm gonna be listening to it a whole lot.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Like I I did like this album, and there are a few tracks that I really like, but as a whole, like you said with the second to last track 12, where it's kind of just like it seems weird that it's put there. There are a few issues with kind of the way the album is formatted. I
Yeah, the
guess
flow or the
the way that
arrangement.
yeah, it doesn't flow as well as some albums that we've done or a lot of other albums that I'll listen to the whole album. This definitely wouldn't be an album that if I listen to it, I need to listen to the whole thing. It would be very much like I'm putting all of my days, I'm putting Song for You, I'm putting Shine or something
Right.
on a playlist. But there's I don't know. Maybe all of it has a meaning that I'm just not seeing yet, but I listened to it probably about 8 or 9 times and
Yeah.
I didn't see it. So I kind of feel like at this point, if I didn't see it already, I'm not
Yeah,
gonna.
I mean, maybe sometimes it takes time. You need to step away from the album and come back, and then you'll get it or it'll click. But I'm right there with you. I think a lot of the songs didn't really seem to contribute to the whole of the album too much, or some of them were a bit repetitive of theme or lyrics, and it just there's not a whole lot interesting, I think, going on in this
Yeah,
album to me. But I did,
it
I did enjoy
definitely.
it for sure.
Yeah, it didn't have like with a lot of albums that I love, which I mean, this just I guess would have to be true with everybody. Uh, it didn't have like a lasting thing where I listen to it and I'm like, oh man, like that
Right.
hit me. Like
It
that
didn't
never
have a
happened.
big impact.
Yeah. But this dude, side note, this guy apparently has been everywhere. Like the music off of this album has been all over like TV shows, commercials and stuff. I'm so surprised I haven't heard of this guy.
Yeah,
Or just nothing sounded familiar. Like he's been on like he was on a Nissan commercial. He's been on like the OC. I
yeah,
think he was
I
on One
saw
Tree
that,
Hill.
and it was interesting because I looked at that's all on his Wikipedia page.
Hmm.
But I was looking at that page while I was listening to it, and before I opened up the page, I was thinking, like this music kind of seems like it would be played in a movie or like at a dramatic time in a movie. So it makes sense that I don't know if he's been used in movies per se, but I know that like you said, the OC, there's been in commercials, and it makes sense because the music kind of feels like that to me.
Yeah. And I mean, I guess I kind of answered my own question given the examples of shows that I said. Like, of course, I haven't heard of it. I haven't watched The OC or One Tree Hill or stuff
Right.
like that. But
Yeah.
it just seems weird that somebody could be
So
in such
successful.
big, yeah, but I've never heard of it.
Yeah, and I mean this is his only album. I think he released an EP after this, but this album came out in 2006, and I don't think he's done. Pardon the clicking. I'm looking at this to confirm. Yeah, he released an EP in 2011, and that's the last music he's done, according to my music service provider. But it's interesting that if he's been that successful, why wouldn't he have done another album by now?
Yeah, but I guess that's just his thing. Like,
Yeah, I mean, if he's happy with his life or he got what he wanted out of making music, more power to him. I just hope it's not for the wrong reasons that he stopped making music.
yeah, definitely. Because I feel like this guy, I mean, this obviously was a successful album, so I don't want to use the whole "everybody's got one great album in them" quote because like
Right.
this was his great album. It went ever, but
Yeah.
like I don't know, maybe he if he would have kept going, I think this guy wow, this is gonna sound so selfish. I think this guy could have put out an album that like I really enjoyed.
Oh, absolutely. And that's the thing. Like, I don't think it's selfish to say, but I think, I mean, I guess it is, but we could indulge in that a little bit. I think a lot of
Yeah.
artists don't really hit their stride in their first album. It takes them two or three
Hmm.
albums to really, like, develop themselves and understand what they're wanting out of an album. And those second or third albums oftentimes are much better than the first album. So I don't think you're wrong in saying that.
But I want him to make an album that I really
It's all about you, Joey. Uh, Anyways,
God.
next week we're gonna be, or this coming week we're gonna be listening to an album that Joey's recommended.
Hmm.
The Tallest Man on
Shallow,
Earth. The album's called Shallow
shallow
Grave.
grave. Listen to it, everybody. I dare you.
Give us some
That's
context. Why? What is it? You don't have to get too deep in it. What is this album,
this
genre-wise or stylistically?
genre-wise. This guy is folk, but he's more bluegrassy, I guess.
Okay.
Like he was, I don't know. He's the guy. He's from Sweden, and
Okay.
but he like sings in English and stuff, and he doesn't
Right.
really have that much of an accent. But like he's very much inspired by like Bob Dylan. I think Nick Drake was one of his big inspirations, but he
Okay.
does a lot of like fingerstyle stuff. But his his music, especially this album early on, it's just him and his guitar. Like there's no really other instruments on it. So it's kind of, I don't know, a lot of the stuff I listen to at the time is yourself type
Yeah.
whatever. So this very much falls in line with that. I kind of figured this would be a good album to listen to right after listening to this one.
Yeah, it'll flow, and maybe I don't want to fall into like a folk rut, but maybe after we do this album, we can get into Jose Gonzalez a little bit, or maybe I'll just recommend it to you off the podcast because I think there's some stuff that you'll like from that.
Well,
But
I'll listen to it anyway, but if you want to talk about it,
yeah, so leave us comments, tweet us, drop us messages on Facebook, Instagram. We're all over the place. YouTube, SoundCloud. We're on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify. We're all over the place now. Drop us some feedback. Let us know how we're doing. Let us know what you thought of the album. Listen with us for the Shallow Grave album by Tallest Man on Earth, because we will be discussing it next week. And until next time, I guess, stay on feedback.
I